Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about a subject I found really interesting, and that is the alternative cloud market, meaning those cloud companies that provide an essential service to the market, but aren't necessarily household names like AWS or Azure. To discuss that, I'm joined by Blair Lyon, Vice President of Cloud Experience at Linode. Blair, happy Friday to you. I'm thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, James. Happy to be here.
I've got a number of big, weighty, serious questions for you, but we should get to the news of the week. Amazing, wild news for Linode. Linode was acquired by Akamai this week. Wow, $900 million. You have a new employer? I mean, what's up with that, Blair?
Well, we're over the moon. We're so excited right now. It's kind of one of these great matches made in heaven, so to speak. Here you have one of the pioneers in the CDN and edge computing, really partnering with another pioneer, Linode, in the cloud computing space. I mean, Linode's been around since 2003. We launched cloud computing actually 3 years, even before AWS, Amazon AWS launched. Mm-hmm. And we've been around for 19 years now. We've been just such an interesting company, bootstrapped, profitable 19 years in a row. Really had no inclination to take money or to partner or anything else, but only if we could find just the right fit. And in this case, we found just the perfect partner.
That is really neat. And it's also neat, the story of starting with cloud computing in 2003. That's cool. The other piece is, you talked about Akamai. I mean, we think about Akamai generally as a content delivery network, but that sets it up as an edge computing player, sort of by definition. How will the two of you work out together? Like, it's just how is that marriage going to work?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, and how cloud computing works and how people deliver content over the internet, is that essentially you have to have a place to build your application, typically a server or servers where you build your application, you run compute on there, and then you also of course have the database on there, and that's where you house all of your content. So that's great, but now you have to deliver it over the internet. And yes, we have delivery capabilities, but truly the best way to deliver content these days, of course, is via CDN and via edge compute. Getting it as close as possible to the user so they have as low as latency, they're the best possible customer experience. And then also what you want to be able to do is not only build, deploy, and deliver, but you also want to secure it. So security is so important, and Akamai has invested heavily in cloud security. And so now we really can do all of those pieces in an end-to-end, really cloud to edge to secure platform. Really all under one roof. So it really offers a great alternative to customers in the marketplace.
That is fantastic. It's going to be really an interesting thing. I'm gonna look for signs of Akamai on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for cloud players. I mean, it's there it is. It's going to be interesting. Let's talk about the alternative cloud provider market, which I assume Linode is part of. Let's make this specific to Linode. I mean, am I correct in thinking Linode has been a home for developers? In other words, what sort of customers have been drawn to Linode? Has it mainly been developers?
Yeah, so one of the things that we focused on when Chris invented the company back in 2003 was he set out with this mission to make cloud computing more affordable, accessible, and simple for everybody, for all, really to drive and accelerate innovation. If you go back in our time machine, back then it was very expensive and very difficult to deploy, cloud computing capabilities, and only the biggest and richest companies could do it. At that time, Salesforce and even Amazon, was building up their capability. But the average developer with a great idea, with a key innovation, really was stuck. They didn't have a place that was affordable, that was easy, where they could have direct control of the server. To be able to build and scale their applications. And that's what Chris, our CEO and founder, Chris Aker, set out to do. And since then, we've really gained the trust of the developer community. And over all of these years, those developers have grown into startups and into enterprises and into interesting mid-sized businesses. And they've carried us along with them. And so it's been a really interesting evolution for us. And now for the market, So when you think about alternative cloud, I mean, yes, that's companies like Linode. It includes companies like OVH Cloud or even DigitalOcean, where we can check enough of those boxes to be viable alternatives to those large hyperscalers, like you mentioned, like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, where you can have a global network. You can have 24/7, 365 support. You can have 4.9 uptime. You can have the core components you need to be able to service most workloads. Things like Kubernetes and dedicated CPUs and being able to have object and block storage. So we now can check those boxes, and some of our peers can too. And that's created this really exciting new category, really over the last few years, called alternative cloud, and now makes up about a third of the market, which is really exciting. And a lot of that is driven not only by it's just great to have choice in the market, but we have great price capabilities. Are about half the cost of Amazon. And we also really are able to simplify a lot of the deep complexity that those big enterprise cloud providers have and make it easier for developers to innovate and to deploy their applications.
Yeah, I know that's definitely one of the things that people say about Amazon Web Services. I mean, clearly it's a powerhouse and has all these tools, but no one has ever said that AWS is easy. It's a tough interface from what many people have told me.
Absolutely.
Let's look at the word Linode and where the company comes from. Linode, as I understand, is a combination of Linux and Node. So is the idea of an open platform really important to Linode's users?
Absolutely. I mean, we were founded on open source technology. Back in 2003, Chris ran across an open source product by Jeff Dyke called UML. And that was really the key to unlocking the ability to virtualize servers in an affordable way. And so it was really, that part of our heritage and our commitment to open source is really fundamental, not only to how we've grown, but also to our strategy. So if you think about going back to Amazon and all of their hundreds of services, a lot of those are great and they're powerful, but they also have some negatives to them. They can kind of lead into vendor lock-in. You could lead into some of these proprietary frameworks that are hard to move and to get out of if you had to, or expand. And so what a lot of developers are doing today, and even venture capitalists and private equity are encouraging their companies to do this, is to kind of roll your own, to be able to leverage the capabilities of the cloud providers, your core compute, storage, and networking, but then control more of the middleware or the applications in between your software and the cloud, therefore giving you more control, more ownership, more flexibility, and being able to do things called like portability or cloud or being cloud agnostic. And that's really exciting. And this is where open source and third-party tools come into play. And it just increases the flexibility tremendously. And for us as cloud providers, we want to encourage that as much as possible. We want to help drive open source, and we want to champion, choice, but also when you have control and your applications are portable.
Definitely a need for that, no doubt about it. And at any rate, we live in a multi-cloud world, so almost no company has one cloud anymore. So there's always room for one more player at any rate. Let's talk about the users. The customers of the alternative cloud market, yourself and DigitalOcean or any of the other players. I mean, what are the challenges? What's life like? What are these folks looking for? We just talk a little bit about the customers and their reality for a moment.
I mean, right now everyone's looking for ways to simplify. That is one of the key things. Yes, price is great. As long as you can get good price performance, that's important. But a lot of times now it's coming down to other things, because when you think about cloud computing, a lot of it is relatively commoditized. I mean, our computers on a rack in a data center are almost identical in a lot of ways to the computers on a rack in a data center at Amazon. Sure. So a lot of it comes down to things like service and support and being able to right size that. Like right now, Linode's one of the only cloud providers in the world that offers free telephone support for every customer, whether you're spending $5 or you're spending $10,000 a month. You can pick up the phone and talk to a real human that can help solve your issue. So that's great. So if you're a small developer or a startup or an SMB, and you need to be able to have real concierge level support, you can get that with an alternative provider like Linode. So that becomes really important. And then simplicity right now, I mean, oh my gosh, with this sort of talent war that's going on for developers, it's so difficult to attract, let alone retain, really high-skilled developers that understand, full stack. So it's even more important that your infrastructure be easy to manage, especially if you don't need, you said all those bells and whistles before, like all that enterprise complexity potentially of an Amazon. I mean, there's a place for that for sure, but for 80 to 90% of most workloads for businesses, simple's better.
That's a selling point. I like the sound of that. All right, so from where you sit, your position with Linode, how does Linode approach or integrate with the hyperscalers? They're up there. Do you integrate? Is it how do you work with them?
Sure. So right now, what we do is we try and be as flexible as possible. So you talked about multi-cloud earlier. We want it to be really easy for people to, hey, if you want to run a particular workload on AWS and then you want to be able to fail over, let's say to Linode, you can do that. And that would be great because now you're getting a much better price point on Linode. Or you want to be able to run combinations. Maybe you want to run compute or a certain location on, let's say, an AWS, and you want to run and use our object storage for the origin. You can use that. So we want to make it really easy to plug and play and make our APIs, open and easy to access and be able to control. And we also want to be able to tap into other sort of third-party tools for orchestration, things like Terraform and others, where you can manage on a multi-cloud framework. You can work with multiple vendors in different ways. And so we just want to be as open as we can and try and resist the temptation to make things proprietary.
That's another selling point, no doubt about it. Let's talk about the future. I mean, I think there's a lot of debate about where cloud is going, whether it'll become, sort of seamless. It'll always be really challenging. I mean, from where you sit, I mean, you've seen a lot of the cloud, growing up. I mean, what's the future of cloud and multi-cloud as you see it?
Well, I think the future is going to be really good because we're going to have more choice in the marketplace. We're going to have more flexibility. I'm going to be able to, like I said before, be more portable, which is going to be wonderful. But the future of the cloud is going to really get out more to the edge. We're going to have more serverless, more functions as a service, things like that, which is one of the other benefits of working with Akamai. They have a lot of that capability. So what we want to do is try and make it as easy as possible to manage the entire continuum that a developer would need to run their applications. And that's going to be all of those pieces we talked about. You're going to need to be able to have everything from the kind of core compute capability all the way to the edge and be able to do functions as a service and be able to secure it and be able to do that all in one seamless way. Now, right now, we have some work to do, obviously, working with our new partner to get there. But I see that as the future. And I see this concept of infrastructure provider kind of pure plays as being really, really important to the marketplace. We don't do, the combination of us and Akamai, that's all that we do is cloud infrastructure. We don't have grocery stores. We don't, have ambitions to launch rockets to the moon. That's not our thing. We just want to do this one thing really, really well and be able to do it not only for individual developers with a great idea and startups and small to medium-sized businesses, but now also be able to do it for large enterprises.
That's great, Blair. I wish you all the luck with the new union with Akamai. I think there's a lot of potential there. It sounds great. Very much appreciate you sharing your thoughts today. I hope you come back and talk to us again sometime. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, I would love to.